What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, that there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them?
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Oh, yes. I want to be a good man. Isn't that what we're all striving to be? A good person. Believe me, this radio show is one of the best places to get you started down that road. By getting your mind cleaned out and freedom and liberty firmly rooted, your life will become a much better place to be, not only for you, but the people around you as well. You won't be meddling in other people's business. You won't be trying to run their lives. You'll be living as your parents taught you to live when you were a kid. You remember what they used to tell you. If your parents were anything like mine, they'd say, mind your own business and keep your hands to yourself. Very good advice for yourself and our country. Before we get too far into the show, let me welcome all of the new listeners out there. We're getting more and more each week. You're tuned in to one of the fastest growing radio shows on the dial today, The Patrick Riggins Show, and me being Patrick Riggins. The charter talk show of the powerhouse Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network, and heard here locally in Knoxville, Tennessee on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. This week, we posted an article on our Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show, in case you might be interested in keeping up with this show during the week. But we posted this article, and I want to make a few comments on it. It's by Matt, and forgive me for not pronouncing his last name correctly, Kibbe, Kibbe, I believe, who is president and CEO of FreedomWorks, and this column ran in Investors Business Daily. The title is, "The Future of the GOP is in its big tent libertarian base." Now, it starts out, it's a lonely job in Washington if you're an elected Republican who promised to balance the budget and restore the Constitution. Beltway experts roll their eyes and dismiss your, quote, naive and, quote, oversimplified views of economic policy and the proper role of government. Party leaders call you into their offices to politely suggest you, quote, mind your place and get in line. New polling shows that policymakers with an authentic commitment to personal freedom and non-intrusive government will thrive in the Republican Party's growing big tent libertarian base, while the big government old guard will follow its own trend and disappear into political obscurity. FreedomWorks' national poll of 1,000 registered voters found that while the Republican Party fumbles to rehabilitate its damaged political brand, favorable opinions towards big tent libertarian values are at the highest level in a decade. The perfect storm is brewing for a referendum on the unchecked authority and arrogance of big government, and Republican incumbents ignore these trends at their own peril, something you've heard on this show for over a year and a half now. According to the poll, 68% of Republican voters believe that individuals should be free to do as they like as long as they don't hurt others, and that the government should keep out of people's day-to-day lives. 61% of American voters believe the economic policies coming out of Washington are hurting rather than helping, and only 17% believe Obamacare will have a positive personal impact. And they note that's a new low point since the law was passed in March 2010. This big tent libertarian constituency isn't a small camp of eccentrics. These are Americans of all races, ages, and creeds who politically self-identify in a number of different ways, but share a common guiding philosophy. Don't hurt others. Don't take their stuff. Apply the same laws to yourself that you impose on the rest of us. and do what you promised you would do. All trends point to the 2014 political landscape being less about Republican versus Democrat and more about the connected insiders, those people in government, versus the rest of us. The, quote, purple line that once separated the red team from the blue team, which would be the Republicans, the Democrat, Republicans from Democrats. Tried to remember which color went with which person there, or party. But the purple line that has separated the red team from the blue team has been fading since the 2008 TARP debate, when political parties from both sides corralled their caucuses behind closed doors to vote for a bailout they knew was wrong, that America didn't want, but passed anyway in the panicked name of bipartisanship. Now, how many times have we heard that kicked around, bipartisanship? Once again, Americans are connecting the dots. 40% of American voters say neither party can be trusted to reform government in Washington. Sounds like they're listening to the show. Voters on both sides of the aisle are starting to realize that bipartisan is a code word for collusion. Tolerance for the revolving door of budgetary trickery is dwindling, with a whopping 81% of Republican voters opposing a debt ceiling increase and 66 strongly opposing an increase. Much like 2010, Republicans up for re-election who continue to shut out constituents and ignore the economic policy priorities that fueled the last GOP midterm sweep will suffer. To win in 2014, the GOP must take its negotiating tables out of the back room and move them under the big tent. All right, a couple of comments on this. For the most part, I do agree with it. But this whole big tent metaphor, I don't really like it too much. It's a liberal buzzword that's being co-opted to try and convince voters that, hey, the Republicans are now your friends. Increasingly, though, when you ask these same, quote, libertarian Republicans about issues such as the government not being involved in licensing marriage or fighting the insane drug war or chasing Al-Qaeda all over the globe, then they'll give you the Republican party line answers. They aren't really for taking government out of everyone's lives. They believe in government. They think it's really a good thing. They just think government should meddle in your life in a way with which they agree. You see, it's never about getting government truly out of your life. It's about changing government's role in it. And personally, I think therein lies the Republicans' problem. They'll talk a good game about Obamacare. The government is going to be tracking your medical care. It's going to be regulating what you can eat, what you can do, the risk you can take, all in the name of health care. Now, you don't want that, do you? But when it comes to deciding with whom you want to live in your own private house, the Republicans are all about telling you what to do there. You know, it better not be someone of the same sex. No, sir. We want you living with the type of person we say you should. What about taking, a drug in the privacy of your own home? Well, better be one that's approved by the government. Alcohol, caffeine, and in some states, marijuana. That's okay. But anything else, and no, sir, you better not be caught doing that. No matter whether you're bothering anyone else or not. Doesn't matter if the only person you're hurting is you. See, the government is here to protect you from yourself. Not to pile on the Republicans. The Democrats do this as well. Why, even as I speak, the Democrat administration is making the argument that we have to kill Syrians who are killing other Syrians in order to save the Syrians. If they aren't going to keep their noses out of another country's business, there isn't much hope they'll do the same within our own nation. But hey, you know what? We're already up on the first break of this way too short hour on the Patrick Reagan Show. When we come back, I'll have a few more thoughts along this same line of reasoning, and we'll get to that and even more before the hour is over, right after these messages.